The massive chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with quiet conversations in 100 different languages. Among the towering alien forms and floating energy beings, Anna Wright looked almost comically small. At 26, she was not only the youngest delegate, but also the only human in the vast circular hall. Today was supposed to be a routine meeting about scientific advancement, but what Anna saw on the presentation screens made her stomach turn. The speaker, a tall gray-skinned alien named Root, was proudly displaying their latest research achievements. As you can see, Root's translator buzzed, "We have successfully modified the nerve endings of these creatures to maximize data collection." The images showed rows of small, furry beings strapped to tables, their bodies connected to countless wires and tubes. Anna gripped the edge of her desk, her knuckles turning white. Around her, other delegates nodded approvingly or tapped notes into their devices. None seemed bothered by the obvious suffering they were witnessing. "Our breeding facilities can now produce 10,000 test subjects per cycle," Root continued, showing footage of dark warehouses filled with cages. "This has greatly accelerated our medical research." Unable to stay quiet any longer, Anna pressed her communication button. A small light flashed above her seat, requesting permission to speak. The council head, a massive being called Leader Prime, looked surprised. Humans rarely spoke during these sessions. "The Earth delegate wishes to speak," Leader Prime announced. "This is unusual during a progress report." Anna stood, her heart pounding but her voice steady. "I have concerns about the ethical implications of these practices," she said clearly. "On Earth, we have found that causing unnecessary suffering to any living being is not only morally wrong, but also scientifically flawed." The chamber erupted in murmurs. Some delegates laughed openly. Root's gray skin flushed a darker shade. "Ethics." Root's translator crackled with obvious disdain. "These are simply animals. Tools for advancement. Surely you don't suggest we treat tools with, what did you call it, moral consideration?" "Every living being can feel pain," Anna countered, bringing up images from Earth's own history. "We once thought as you did, but we learned better ways. Our research shows that stressed and suffering subjects produce unreliable data. Ethical treatment leads to better science." Leader Prime raised a limb for silence. "Delegate Wright, your species is very young in galactic terms. Perhaps you don't understand that these practices have served us for thousands of cycles." "Age doesn't make something right," Anna replied firmly. Several delegates gasped at her boldness. "I formally request a full review of current research practices across all member worlds." The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted in various languages, some supporting her bravery, others calling for her removal. But Anna remained standing, her blue eyes fixed on the suffering creatures till displayed on the screens. As Leader Prime called for order, Anna knew she had just started something big. She might be just one human, but she had seen enough of humanity's own dark history to know that change often started with a single voice willing to speak out. The real fight was just beginning. 3 days after her controversial speech, Anna found herself walking through a research facility on a distant moon. The council had granted her request for inspection rights, probably hoping to prove her wrong. Instead, what she discovered made Earth's darkest experiments look tame. The facility director, a thin blue alien named Mist, glided beside her. "We maintain the highest standards of efficiency," they said proudly, gesturing at endless rows of transparent cells. Anna fought to keep her face neutral as she recorded everything with her optical implant. Inside each cell, creatures of different shapes and sizes were confined in spaces barely large enough to move. Some had extra limbs surgically attached. Others had their internal organs visible through transparent skin patches. "And these subjects?" she asked, pointing to a section where small fox-like creatures huddled together, their eyes showing clear intelligence and fear. "Ah, the L-class specimens," Mist replied cheerfully. "Quite remarkable. They can solve complex puzzles and show signs of basic communication. Perfect for neural experiments." Anna's heart nearly stopped. These weren't just animals. They were sentient beings. "May I?" she asked, approaching one of the cells. Mist activated a force field passage. Inside, the creatures watched her carefully. Anna knelt down, keeping her movements slow and gentle. One of them, braver than the others, approached her. "Hello," she whispered. The creature tilted its head, then made a series of soft clicking sounds. Behind her, Mist typed something into their tablet. "Fascinating response," Mist noted. "They usually don't interact with strangers. Perhaps we should study this behavior before tomorrow's neural extraction." "Neural extraction?" Anna asked, her voice tight. "Yes. Unfortunately, the process is fatal, but the data will be invaluable." Anna stood up slowly, her hands shaking with controlled anger. She looked around the facility again, seeing it with new eyes. How many of these test subjects were actually intelligent species, classified as animals simply because they couldn't speak in ways the Council recognized? She walked further, documenting everything. There were breeding chambers where creatures were force-grown at accelerated rates, their bodies often failing under the strain. Testing areas where specimens were exposed to extreme conditions without pain relief. And worst of all, a disposal unit for failed subjects. "Director Mist," Anna said finally, her voice perfectly controlled. "Could you explain the classification process for determining whether a species is sentient?" Mist waved dismissively. "If they cannot achieve spaceflight or create complex technology, they are classified as research subjects. The Council established this standard centuries ago." Anna thought of Earth's dolphins, elephants, and primates, all intelligent species that simply expressed their intelligence differently. By the Council's standards, they would all be here in these cells. "Thank you for the tour," she said carefully. "This has been very informative." As she left the facility, Anna sent a secure transmission to her small group of allies on the Council. The message was simple: "I have proof. Meet me in 6 hours. What I found is worse than we imagined." She took one last look at the facility, its sterile white walls hiding countless horrors. This wasn't just about animal cruelty anymore. This was about preventing genocide of species the Council didn't consider worthy of rights. The real scope of her fight was becoming terrifyingly clear. The secret meeting room, hidden deep within the lower levels of the Council station, was designed for 12 beings. Tonight, only 5 had dared to come. Anna looked at each of them, these brave few who had answered her call. "What you're about to see," she said, activating her holographic projector, "will change everything we thought we knew about Council research." The images from the facility filled the room. Representative Blue, a crystalline being who had first reached out to Anna after her speech, emitted a soft glow of distress. The other 3, Green Leaf from the plant worlds, Spark from the energy realms, and Shell from the ocean planets, all showed signs of shock in their own unique ways. "Those poor beings," Green Leaf whispered, their leaves trembling. "We had heard rumors, but this—" "It gets worse," Anna said grimly. She played the recording of the fox-like creatures, showing their clear signs of intelligence. "These aren't just random animals. They're thinking, feeling beings who simply communicate differently than us." Spark crackled with anger, their energy form pulsing bright red. "By the ancient stars, they're committing mass murder of entire civilizations. The Council must be informed immediately." Shell clicked through their translator, their hard exterior ruffling with agitation. "They already know." Blue's crystal form dimmed with sadness. "My people once tried to speak up, centuries ago. We were threatened with research classification ourselves if we didn't stay quiet." The room fell silent. Anna looked at each of them again. "That's why I called just you 4. You represent the smaller worlds, the ones who remember what it's like to be considered lesser beings. Will you help me?" "The big corporations control most council votes," Green Leaf warned. "They fund everything. Fighting them would be dangerous. I already have a plan, Anna replied. She brought up another hologram, showing Earth's history of animal rights and scientific advancement. We don't need to convince everyone at once. We just need to prove that ethical research produces better results. My people will support this, Spark pulsed determinedly. We remember when we were just energy anomalies to the Council. The ocean worlds will stand with you, Shell added. We have seen too many water-dwelling species classified as simple life forms. Blue's crystal structure brightened. I can quietly contact other worlds who have faced similar threats. We may find more allies than we think. It won't be easy, Anna warned. The corporations will fight back hard. They might threaten your worlds, your research funding, everything. Some things are worth fighting for. Greenleaf's voice was firm. My world was almost classified as a plant resource once. Never again. They spent the next hour planning their strategy. Each would approach potential allies carefully, gathering support in secret. They would need evidence, testimonies, and proof that ethical research methods worked better. As the meeting ended, Blue lingered behind. You know they'll come after you first, they said softly. Humans are still new to the Council. Your position is not secure. Anna smiled grimly. I know, but sometimes the right thing to do is also the hardest thing to do. She looked at the holograms still floating in the room, showing the faces of countless suffering beings. And I won't stay silent. Not anymore. Anna hadn't slept in 3 days. Her quarters in the Council station were covered wall to wall with holographic displays, each showing different pieces of evidence she had collected. Dark circles marked her eyes as she organized her findings, fueled by nothing but determination and too much coffee. Computer, cross-reference test subject intelligence markers with Earth's sentience criteria, she commanded, her voice hoarse. The AI compiled the data, creating a new display that made her heart sink even further. 87% match with known sentient species parameters, the computer reported. Based on Earth's classification system, most test subjects would qualify for protected status. A soft chime announced a visitor. Representative Blue's crystalline form shimmered as they entered, carrying the data crystal. More evidence from the outer worlds, they said quietly. It's worse than we thought. Anna added the new data to her collection. The room now showed a damning pattern. Thousands of potentially sentient species, all classified as research subjects, simply because they didn't build spaceships or use technology the Council recognized. Look at this, she pointed to one display. Earth's great apes use tools, show emotional intelligence, and can learn sign language. But by Council standards, they'd be classified as test subjects. She brought up another image. And these aquatic beings from Shell's world, they have complex social structures and their own language. But because they don't build cities, they're seen as mere animals. Blue finished, their crystal structure dimming with sadness. Anna nodded, pulling up her historical database. But here's our weapon. Earth's scientific advancement records. See this spike? It happened after we implemented strict ethical guidelines. Better treatment led to better results. Happy, well-cared-for subjects provided more accurate data. She moved to another display, showing profit margins. And here's something the corporations can't ignore. Ethical research facilities on Earth have higher success rates and lower costs. No waste from failed subjects. No loss of data from stress-contaminated results. Blue examined the numbers carefully. This is compelling, but the Council loves their graphs and charts. We need something more emotional. Anna smiled tiredly. Already handled. She activated another hologram, showing a series of short recordings. Test subjects helping each other, showing clear signs of social bonds. A fox-like creature solving complex puzzles, then teaching others to do the same. Different species communicating through improvised gestures. I've edited thousands of hours of footage down to 5 minutes, she explained. 5 minutes that prove these aren't just test subjects. They're people. Different from us, but people nonetheless. Blue's crystal structure brightened with hope. When will you present this? Tomorrow, Anna said, straightening her shoulders. I've called for an emergency session. All council members must attend by law when evidence of ethics violations is presented. They'll try to stop you, Blue warned. The corporations have already been making threats. Anna looked at her collection of evidence, the result of weeks of sleepless nights and dangerous investigations. Let them try. Every threat they make just proves we're right. She touched one of the holograms, showing a small creature comforting its injured companion. They can't hide the truth anymore. Tomorrow would change everything, one way or another. The Grand Council chamber was packed. Every seat was filled, and the air crackled with tension. Anna stood at the central podium, facing hundreds of delegates from across the galaxy. Her evidence files were ready, her speech prepared. Behind her, the massive display screen waited to show her findings. Leader Prime's voice boomed through the chamber. Delegate Wright of Earth has called this emergency session to present evidence of alleged ethics violations. You may begin. Anna took a deep breath. Instead of starting with charts and data, she pressed a button. The screen lit up with a simple image, a mother creature in a testing facility, trying to shield her babies from the handlers. Look at her. Anna's voice was quiet but carried across the silent chamber. Really look. What do you see? A test subject? A research tool? Or do you see a mother protecting her children? She changed the image to a split screen. On one side, a group of test subjects worked together to share food. On the other, footage from Earth showed chimps doing the same thing. We once made the same mistakes you're making now, she continued. We thought intelligence only counted if it looked like ours. We were wrong. The chamber erupted in murmurs as she played more comparisons. Council classified test subjects, showing the same behaviors as Earth's recognized intelligent species. Problem solving, tool use, emotional bonds, teaching. But this isn't just about morality. Anna's voice grew stronger. She switched to the data displays. Look at the numbers. Earth's ethical research facilities produce better results with lower costs. Happy subjects give accurate data. Stressed, suffering creatures give unreliable results. Root, the gray-skinned scientist from her first confrontation, stood up. These are emotional appeals. We cannot halt progress because of feelings. Progress. Anna challenged. She brought up new images. The massive waste disposal units, the failed experiments, the contaminated data. How does this progress? You're throwing away resources, destroying potential allies, and compromising your own research. She played her final recording. The fox-like creatures she'd met, now shown teaching each other complex tasks. These beings you experimented on. They're learning, adapting, communicating. They could teach us things we never imagined if we just stopped treating them like disposable tools. The chamber had grown very quiet. Anna looked at each section of delegates. Earth offers an alternative. We will share our ethical research methods. We will help establish new guidelines. And we will prove that treating all life with respect leads to better science. Leader Prime leaned forward. You realize what you're suggesting would require massive changes to our research systems. Yes. Anna stood straighter. But think about this. How many cures have we missed because we killed potential research partners? How many discoveries have we lost because we were too busy causing pain to see the intelligence right in front of us? She gestured at her evidence displays. Change is never easy, but sometimes it's necessary. Earth learned this lesson. Now it's the Council's turn. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some delegates were shouting. Others were studying her data with intense interest. Through it all, Anna stood firm at the podium, her evidence shining behind her like a beacon of truth. The vote was about to begin. The attack came at night. Anna barely dodged as her office door exploded inward, filling the room with thick green smoke. She grabbed her data tablet and dove behind her desk just as three shadowy figures burst in. Find her files. Destroy everything, a harsh voice commanded. Anna smiled grimly in the darkness. The attackers were too late. She'd already backed up all her evidence to secure servers across 20 different worlds. What they were destroying were just empty hologram projectors. This wasn't the first attack since her speech 3 days ago, and it wouldn't be the last. The major research corporations were fighting back hard. Earlier that day, the news networks had run exposes claiming she was an Earth extremist. Corporate-funded scientists published reports claiming that ethical research would set progress back by centuries. One company even claimed they had evidence that humans were conducting secret experiments themselves. Agent Wright. A quiet voice made her turn. In the doorway stood Captain Stone of the Council's security force, his uniform gleaming. "Are you unharmed?" The attackers had vanished as quickly as they'd come. Anna stood up, brushing dust from her clothes. "I'm fine, but this makes 12 attempts this week." Stone nodded grimly. "The corporations are getting desperate. Your evidence has started a movement. More delegates are supporting your proposal every day." Anna walked to her window, looking out at the endless stars. Her small coalition had grown. After her speech, 30 more worlds had pledged their support, but the corporations controlled hundreds of votes through money and influence. Her computer chimed with an urgent message. Representative Blue's crystal form appeared on screen, their structure flickering with distress. "Anna, they're trying to revoke Earth's council membership. They're claiming humans are too primitive to understand galactic research needs." Anna clenched her fists. "They can't do that. We have allies now." "Be careful," Blue warned. "Root is leading the movement against you. He's calling for your arrest for interfering with vital research." Captain Stone stepped forward. "They won't touch you. Council security stands with your cause. We've seen too much to stay silent." Another message flashed, this one from Earth's government. Anna read it, and her face hardened. The corporations had threatened to cut off medical supplies to Earth if she didn't back down. "They're threatening my whole planet now," she said quietly. "What would you do?" Stone asked. Anna straightened her shoulders. "The same thing I've been doing. Fight back. Show the truth." She activated her communicator. "Call emergency meeting of all allied delegates. They want to play dirty." "Fine. Let's show them what humans do when backed into a corner." As Stone left to arrange security, Anna looked at the chaos of her destroyed office. The corporations thought they could scare her into silence. They didn't understand that every threat, every attack, every lie just proved how right she was. "Computer, send message to all allied worlds," she commanded. "Tell them to prepare their own evidence. It's time to show the Council exactly how deep this corruption goes." The corporations had started this fight, but Anna was going to finish it. And she wasn't alone anymore. The small research ship drifted silently through space, its lights dimmed to avoid detection. Inside, Anna and Representative Blue watched in amazement as Dr. Wave, a leading xenobiologist, conducted her tests. "Impossible," Wave muttered, checking the results for the 10th time. "These beings don't just have basic intelligence. They have a completely developed civilization." On the screen before them, images showed the fox-like creatures Anna had met in the research facility. But these weren't test subjects. These were free beings on their hidden homeworld. They had villages built inside massive trees, used tools made from natural materials, and had their own written language carved into bark. The corporations knew. Blue's crystal form pulsed with anger. That's why they kept their main research facility near this planet. They didn't want anyone finding this. Anna watched as Wave documented everything. The creatures, who called themselves the Whispers, had developed a society in perfect harmony with their environment. They didn't build machines or use metal, so the Council had classified them as primitive animals. "Send the evidence to all Council members," Anna commanded. "Let's see them justify experimenting on beings with their own written language." The response was immediate. Council communication channels exploded with outrage. More delegates who had stayed neutral began speaking out. The corporations tried to dismiss the evidence, But more revelations kept coming. Other worlds, inspired by Anna's discovery, began investigating research facilities in their own systems. They found more hidden civilizations, more intelligent species classified as test subjects, simply because they lived differently than the Council races. Emergency Council session called. The ship's computer announced. Attendance mandatory. When Anna entered the Council chamber this time, the atmosphere was completely different. Many delegates who had mocked her before now avoided her eyes. Root, her old opponent, wasn't even present. He had been arrested for knowingly experimenting on sentient beings. Leader Prime looked aged and tired. Delegate Wright. Their voice was heavy. Your evidence has sparked investigations across the galaxy. 47 intelligent species have been discovered in research facilities. The scope of this atrocity, is beyond anything we imagined. It's not just about these species, Anna said clearly. Every creature deserves ethical treatment, whether they build cities or not. But this proves how wrong our assessment methods have been. One by one, delegates stood to speak. Many shared their own discoveries of mistreated species. Others admitted they had suspected the truth but feared speaking out. The corporation's representatives sat in silence, their power visibly crumbling. The council calls for an immediate vote, Leader Prime announced, on the total suspension of all current research practices pending ethical review. The vote wasn't even close. After centuries of abuse, change was finally coming. As the results were announced, Anna received a message from Earth. The Whispers had agreed to act as teachers, helping humans and other races understand different forms of intelligence. You did it, Blue said softly. Anna shook her head, watching the council chamber buzz with new energy and purpose. We all did it, every being who dared to speak up, every world that chose right over easy. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly what they had fought for. 6 months after the historic vote, Anna stood in Earth's new Galactic Research Center, watching species from across the galaxy work together. The massive facility, built with council funding, had become the center of a scientific revolution. Through the observation window, she watched a human scientist learning the complex sign language of the Whispers. In another room, aquatic beings from Shell's world taught researchers about underwater communications. Every day brought new discoveries as former test subjects became valued research partners. The latest results are in. Representative Blue approached, their crystal form glowing with excitement. Ethical research methods have increased successful outcomes by 300%. The corporations were wrong about everything. Anna smiled, remembering the fierce battles of the past months. The transition hadn't been easy. Many old guard scientists had fought against the changes, claiming they would slow progress. Instead, willing research participants and stress-free environments had led to breakthrough after breakthrough. Report from the enforcement teams. Captain Stone joined them, looking pleased. We shut down the last illegal testing facility in the outer sectors. The age of cruel experiments is over. The facility's intercom chimed. Delegate right to cultural exchange, please. The Whisper Elders have arrived for their lesson. In the exchange chamber, 3 Whispers waited. They had names now: Swift, River, and Cloud. Once treated as simple test animals, they now taught council scientists about their unique way of seeing the universe. Today we learn about plant speaking. Swift signed, his intelligent eyes bright with enthusiasm. Our people hear the songs of growing things. This helps make better medicines. As Anna watched the lesson, her computer pad buzzed with updates from across the galaxy. More worlds were adopting Earth's ethical standards. Research facilities were being redesigned to accommodate different species comfortably. The Council's Science Division, once dominated by corporate interests, now had representatives from 50 different species. Message from the Medical Board, Blue announced. The new cancer treatment, developed with Whisper plant knowledge, has shown a 90% success rate. And the water-breathing chambers designed by Shell's people have revolutionized surgery. Anna walked through the facility, seeing the changes everywhere. Gone were the sterile cages and cold laboratories. Instead, each research area was adapted to its participants' needs. Some rooms were filled with trees for tree-dwelling species. Others were aquatic chambers or low-gravity zones. In the main hall, a new mural showed different species working together, sharing knowledge. Below it, the facility's motto shone in multiple languages: progress through partnership. Hard to believe it all started with one speech, Captain Stone said softly. Anna shook her head. It started long before that. It started every time someone saw suffering and knew it was wrong. We just needed someone to speak up first. Her computer chimed again. Another world had signed the Ethical Research Treaty. Soon, the entire galaxy would be united in this new way of thinking. The corporations were right about one thing, she said, watching a group of young scientists, human and alien, learning from each other. This did change everything, just not in the way they feared. Progress hadn't slowed. It had exploded, powered by cooperation instead of cruelty. The galaxy was entering a new age of discovery, one built on respect for all life. And it was only the beginning. 1 year to the day after her first speech, Anna stood before the Galactic Council again. But this time, she wasn't alone. Beside her stood representatives from 20 formerly research subject species, all now full council members. The Universal Creature Care Act has exceeded all expectations, she reported, gesturing to the statistical displays. Research efficiency is up. Costs are down. Medical breakthroughs are happening weekly. But most importantly, we've grown as a civilization. The chamber, once filled with corporate representatives, now held a diverse mix of beings. The Whispers had their own section, their tree-like seats a stark contrast to the traditional metal chairs. Aquatic species floated in specially designed tanks. Energy beings pulsed freely in designated zones. Earth's research center has become the model for the galaxy, Leader Prime announced. 2,000 similar facilities have been established across Council space. The age of cruel experimentation is officially over. Representative Blue, now head of the new Ethics Committee, floated forward. We propose making Earth the permanent center for ethical research training. All new scientists must study there before receiving their licenses. The vote was unanimous. Anna felt tears in her eyes as she remembered the lonely fights, the threats, the violence. Now the corporations that had tried to silence her were gone, replaced by organizations that put ethics first. Swift, the Whisper Elder, stepped forward to sign the document with his unique mark. One by one, representatives from former test subject species added their signatures. Each signature represented a victory, a recognition of their right to exist as equals. Message from Medical Control, Anna's computer chirped. The combined knowledge of all species has led to cures for 80% of known diseases. Research satisfaction rates are at historic highs. After the ceremony, Anna walked through the Council Station's new garden level. Species from across the galaxy had contributed plants, creating a space where all could feel at home. The Whispers tended to their sacred trees. Aquatic beings maintained underwater gardens. Even the energy creatures had their own special areas where they could nurture light-based life forms. They're calling it the Right Revolution, Captain Stone said, joining her walk. Though I hear you hate that name. Anna laughed. I didn't do it alone. Every being who spoke up, who dared to say this is wrong, they're all part of this. But you spoke first, Blue added, their crystal form reflecting the garden's colors. Sometimes that's the hardest part. In the center of the garden stood a simple monument. It showed a human hand reaching out to help a smaller being stand up. Around its base, written in every council language, were the words, "Progress through kindness." Anna touched the monument gently. We still have work to do, she said. There are more worlds to reach, more beings to protect. And we'll do it together. Swift signed, his expressive face showing joy. As equals, as friends. As the station's artificial sun began to set, Anna looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, more species waited to be discovered. But this time, they wouldn't be met with cages and cruel tests. They would be met with open hands and open hearts. The galaxy had changed. And it had changed because one human girl had dared to speak out against cruelty. It was a new dawn for all species, and it was beautiful.